Hi, everyone. We hope you guys are having a phenomenal day out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is Mr. Tiska with you once again. And once again, I'm joined by the one and only Mrs. Kraft. Mrs. Kraft, how are you doing today?
Today is a super good day. How about you, my friend?
Oh, I'm having a super duper day, if I do say so myself. And along with Mrs. Kraft, we also have the very technologically savvy Miss Hoff with us. Miss Hoff, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. So today we're going to be learning about Chapter 12, Section 3, and that's about the transportation revolution. Now, the big idea for today is that new forms of transportation improve business, travel, and communication in the United States.
And the main ideas that we're going to talk about are that the transportation revolution affected trade and daily life. The steamboat was one of the first developments of the transportation revolution. Railroads were a vital part of the transportation revolution, and that the transportation revolution brought many changes to the American life and industry. So, main idea number one, the transportation revolution affected trade and daily life. Really, what you need to take from here is that this transportation revolution, that I've said a million times, has caused a big boom in business around the country, especially because of the trains and steamboats. So, trains and railroads made it a lot easier for people to get to and from different places, get goods to and from different places, and travel became a lot faster. Main idea number two, the steamboat was one of the first developments of our transportation revolution.
So Robert Fulton, who was an inventor, invented the steamboat. He called it the Claremont in 1807. And steamboats really made it easier for people to transport goods back and forth. And because of that, it was a really big boost to the economy. And eventually in 1840, over 500 steamboats are going to be in use. Now, even though this really benefited the economy, it also led to some problems too, which brings me to the Supreme Court case, Gibbons v. Ogden in 1824. Basically, Gibbons was given a license to operate his steamboat by the federal government, whereas Ogden was given a license to operate a steamboat by New York's government. So the two were arguing over who had the right to operate steamboats in New York. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sided with Gibbons. So it basically proved that the federal government has the right to control trade for the country. And if you look here, this is a picture of actually Robert Fulton's steamboat called the Claremont. Look how pretty.
Beautiful.
It looks so pretty on the water. Look at that.
Yeah, that doesn't mention the fact that they blew up all the time.
We'll leave that out. We'll stick with the fact that it's just pretty.
Main idea number three, railroads were a vital part of the transportation revolution.
Yeah, so not only did you have steamboats, but you also had railroads, and one of them that was created by Peter Cooper. He created a locomotive called the Tom Thumb, and basically he was trying to prove to people that this was the way of the future, that this was going to be faster than horses and horse carriages and all that. So they had this huge race in 1830 between the Tom Thumb and a rail car that was going to be pulled by horses. And everyone's saying, Peter Cooper saying, he said, this is going to win. The Tom Thumb's going to win. It's going to win. It's going to win. It's going to win. And they have the race, and the Tom Thumb actually loses. It breaks down near the end of the race. However, it really showed people how fast locomotives can be, and it really kind of proved to people that locomotives were the wave of the future. So eventually, by 1860, there's going to be over 30,000 miles of railroads that link American cities. And because all of these trains and railroads are bringing goods back and forth at a much faster rate, that is going to boost the economy as well. So steamboats and railroads really help the U.S. economy.
Main idea number four, the transportation revolution brought many changes to American life and industry.
So people were not looking at their little rowboats anymore. They weren't looking at their horse and carriages. They were looking at how awesome these new technological transportation advances were. Check out that train. It's quite awesome. Now, what you don't realize is that that same train had trouble going up and down steep mountains. It had trouble going around tight curves. It couldn't cross rivers. And crazy enough, if that train went too fast, it literally would go flying off of the tracks. But for the person seeing it for the first time, it was like, wow, that is the coolest. It's big, It makes its own sound that they'd never heard before. So it makes quite an impression on them. Now, in addition to that, you're getting places so much faster. A wagon would average 2 miles per hour, while this locomotive would now average somewhere around 20 miles per hour. Now, since goods were brought to market faster, it also made it cheaper to send your goods to the market, which is another impact of the railroad. It also affected the coal industry. Initially, railroads were run on wood, and then it was replaced by coal. So now you have coal mining towns in Pennsylvania and Western Virginia and Illinois that are popping up. The other crazy thing that the railroad affected is the life or death of a town. Yeah, that's right. I didn't say it wrong. It's the life or death of a town. If you could get the railroad to come to your town flourished. People were like, well, it's a stop on the train. I'm going to go there. And the towns that could not get the railroad to come ended up dying off, and people would move away from those towns and eventually go live closer to where the railroad is. And that, of course, impacted big cities, because big cities started to develop around the railroad.
All right.
Okay, I believe that's it for us today. Mrs. Kraft, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, this was short and sweet, this lesson.
That's the way we like them. Ms. Hoff, anything else you want to add?
Nope. Have a great day.
Have a fantastic day, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.